cricket world. Now the roof seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition, another episode of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt, and thanks as ever for joining us for another conversation, another edition, another mashup, another breakdown, another analysis of all things West Indies cricket. And I always say this, I'm going to do a quick one, but this is obviously meant to be a quick one. We are about less than 48 hours away from the start of round 2 of the West Indies First Class Championship. And I just kind of quickly wanted to do a quick breakdown and analysis of the key talking points from round 1 of the West Indies Championship, which ended, depending on which game you're watching, which ended on either Friday the 9th or Saturday the 10th, of course, in that first round. Jamaica Scorpions played the Leeward Island Volcanoes. CCC played Barbados Pride. Leeward Island Hurricanes played West Indies Academy. And Guyana Harp Eagles played Trinidad and Tobago Red Force. And there were several things that kind of came out of this first round that need to be spoken about, need to be touched on. And as ever, as I always say, get at us in the comments below. You're not going to agree with everything we say, but we're certainly going to give you talking points of things that you may want to have a say on. So get in the comments below. Obviously, like the video, share the video, subscribe to Caribbean Cricket Podcast, all of that. Road to 8K, etc., etc. But of course, first and foremost, just participate, in the conversation. So the first thing that I kind of wanted to look at in round 1 is I wanted to talk about the omni shambles on and off the pitch. Before we get into who had a good round 1 and who we should be looking out for and what did round 1 show us and so on and so forth, we've got to address the omni shambles. First things first, the game at Chedwin Park, Spanish Town, between CCC and Barbados Pride. There was no play on day 1 because a hose pipe was left on overnight and soaked a significant part of the outfield, which rendered the pitch unplayable for the first day of that particular game. Absolute shambles. Heads have to roll for things like this. I don't know how kind of operations work within Cricket West Indies and how accountability goes in Cricket West Indies, or whether this is something specific to the Jamaica Cricket Association and something they need to sort out. But it's unacceptable. It's simply unacceptable. How can you have what is your flagship Red Ball domestic tournament and news is breaking the no play on the pitch because the pitch is soaking, it's sodden, hose pipe left on overnight? You wouldn't expect that kind of dumbness in village cricket, much less club cricket. And yet it's happening in our flagship domestic tournament. So that was bad enough in and of itself. I thought, boy, look at this now. Big PR put into start of Red Ball Championship, no play day 1. Then if things couldn't get worse, there was no play day 2, day 3, and day 4 of the Trinidad Tobago versus Guyana Harper Eagles match. Why? A combination of 2 factors. Rain in St. Kitts, but more importantly than that, and inadequate covers for the pitch at Connery in St. Kitts. But more importantly than that, and people are trying to cover their tracks. I note that there was no mention of this point on the official handles from Cricket West Indies. But no matter how much they tried to cover it up, cows got on the BC pitch. Cows to blouse and skirt. Cows got on the pitch at Connery, trampled up the pitch. I think it was an adjoining pitch. Shit up the pitch and all sorts. No play possible. And then worst of all, people tried to cover their tracks and lie about it. So let's put these two factors together. The flagship domestic Red Bull tournament saw 4 days of play, 4 days of no play across 2 matches, not because of weather, but because of factors that were totally within the control of the grounds people in the respective grounds to sort out. 1, a hose pipe left on, wet up the pitch, made it unplayable. 2, cows on the pitch, trampled up the ground, shit up the ground, no play possible. What type of patty shop business are we running in West Indies cricket? Heads have to roll. Heads have to roll in Jamaica. Heads have to roll in St. Kitts. Someone somewhere has to hold a sacking. You can't just let things like this happen. Big news spreads out, embarrassing the region, embarrassing cricket authorities, and no one's holding a sacking. All now I'm waiting to hear who got sacked for this. Who held a sacking for this? Who lost their job for this? Come on, man. We're trying to pretend or purport that this is the best competition within the region, where we're going to find our next set of test cricketers and players can't play because of cows shitting up the pitch. Let me drink some water, yeah. Heads have to roll. Heads have to roll. Even before I get onto the other matches, let me deal with the next thing. Breaking news today, and Cricket West Indies have acknowledged this. Runsford Beaton has been called for pelting again. And you know what? Let me get this off the jump. First things first. I saw some video footage from that TNT match versus Harpy Eagles on day 1. Someone sent me some footage of Runsford bowling, and the pelting was obvious, right? And I got into a big discussion in one of the WhatsApp groups that I'm in today. And I said in the WhatsApp group, it's like, I feel sorry for Runsford, because this is what, the 3rd, 4th, maybe 5th time this has happened to Runsford, right? And I know last May his action was cleared at Loughborough University. And I guess there's questions to be asked about how rigorous was that process. Like, obviously footage would have been sent to Loughborough, but was there a control footage versus a normal footage? Like, how did that work? And more importantly than that, when Runsford was called up to play for Guyana Harpy Eagles in this year's competition, do you mean to tell me that nobody in Guyana saw him pelting? Because you don't just turn up to the first class championship and start pelting. Like, you have to have already been pelting before you got there. Did no one see this in Guyana? And if people did see this in Guyana, how comes nobody intervened before it got to this stage again? I'm not having a go at Runsford. I'm talking about the support structures or lack thereof around Runsford Beaton. Come on, man. 3 big incidents in round 1. All of them, to me, which were preventable incidents. Let me go find the press release that Cricket West Indies put out. Because true say, I didn't even read the official press release. Let me see. Here we go. This is what they said. Runsford Beaton, the Guyana Harpy Eagles fast bowler, was reported for a suspect bowling action during the ongoing West Indies Championship 4-day first-class competition. Beaton's action was cited by match officials during the first-round match between Guyana and Trinidad at Connery Cricket Centre in St. Kitts. As part of the process, once a player is just reported for a suspect bowling action, video footage from the match in which the player was reported is provided to CWI. The video footage, along with the written report, is then sent to the CWI Bowling Review Group and Loughborough University for analysis using an opinion report. On Sunday, Cricket West Indies confirmed that the opinion report by the independent assessor at Loughborough Uni has found Beaton's bowling action to be illegal, and as such, he has been suspended from bowling in all West Indies international and regional matches with immediate effect. The assessment revealed that Beaton's deliveries exceeded the level of tolerance for extension of the elbow permitted under playing regulations. And as per ICC regulations, the suspension will also apply to all other domestic leagues worldwide. Beaton has now been replaced by Isaiah Thorne for the next round for the Guy and Harp Eagles. And again, let me state, I'm not digging out Runsford Beaton here. I'm digging out the people around him who this was this was a preventable situation. Someone must have seen the pelting before he was called up to the senior side. Somebody surely could have intervened and said, you know what, we got some work to do before he starts bowling again for the regional side. Again, for me, heads have to roll. Questions have to be asked. Selector selected him. What? No one knew about pelting. Come on, man. I've had enough, man. I've had enough, cuz. Had enough, cuz. Anyways, let's move on to the matches. Sorry, people, that cough I've got is still there, you know. Slowly getting better, though. Let's move on to the matches. So, across the 4 matches, obviously, Trinidad and Tobago and Guy and Harp Eagles, that match was abandoned. No play after day 1 due to the cow situation. Let's look at the other game in St. Kitts. The West Indies Academy carried on where they left off from the Headley and Weeks series last season when they licked down the best teams at the end of the 4-day championship. Now, I will freely admit that I had a level of skepticism about how strong the West Indies Academy might be this time round, because several of the players have graduated into their national franchises. Kevlin Anderson is with Guyana, Kevin Wickham is with Barbados, etc. And I thought that the Academy team would be a tad weaker this time round, but they dealt with the Leeward Islands and dealt with them easily, it must be said. Bowling out the Leeward Islands in the first innings for 137, posting up 177 themselves. Then the Leeward Islands made 232, and you would have thought that 193 might be difficult for the West Indies Academy to chase. But they got there with 5 wickets to spare. Kadeem Alain hitting 57 off 20, basically playing a T20 innings in the chase. Joshua James coming in at number 6 or 7, hitting 41 off 21 at the back end. And it was all very easy. They chased the 193 needed in 33 overs. Again, making a mockery of what supposedly is an academy team versus seasoned pros. I thought Leeward Islands looked poor. I thought Cornwall's captaincy led a lot to be desired. I thought the academy team batted situations better. They were led better by Naeem Young. They seemed better. They seemed more certain of their games as individuals. The Leeward Islands, when they were bowling against the academy for that 193 chase, Cornwall was getting carted to all parts and just left himself on. Daniel Durham bowled 1 over. Kofi James bowled 1 over. The tactics just didn't make a whole lot of sense. Okay, and ultimately the Leeward Islands were outplayed. There's a few talking points. There's a few talking points in there for the academy game. I thought, and Becky Joseph, the Bayesian top order bat, I thought he was decent. It was good to see Joshua James, 3 wickets in the first inning, 7 overs, 3 for 11. I thought all the bowlers chipped in for the academy side. Johan Lane, Naeem Young, Joshua James, Joshua Bishop, Ashmead Ned. They all played their part across the set of the 2 Leeward Islands innings. So it's not like there was one standout bowler amongst everybody. One standout bowler amongst all the West Indies Academy bowlers. I thought they all kind of did their job. People will talk about that Kadeem Alain innings at the top where he struck 57 off 20 balls. It was a T20 innings. I will never. I mean, Kadeem Alain for me is a white ball player. The knock was an interesting one because you're not going to be able to play knocks like that in red ball cricket very often. But having seen Kadeem Alain in his early white ball career, that certainly seems to be his style of batting, to beat ball to the boundary and so on and so forth. It's going to be very interesting to see how he gets on throughout the rest of the tournament if they persist with him at the top of the order. Joshua James, for those of you who know about Joshua James, the sky's the limit for Joshua James. And I think, as I said on the previous innings in the West Indies under 19 video that I did, that if it wasn't for injury, you would think and hope that Joshua James would be in the Trinidad and Tobago setup by now. That's how talented and how good he is as an all-rounder. Hopefully, this is now the real beginning for Joshua on his pathway to success. But yeah, good to see the academy side take down yet another seasoned, to some extent, franchise team, and let's see how they get on in their next game, where they will be playing the Trinidad and Tobago Red Force, who may actually come into that game a bit undercooked, given that they only played one day against Guyana. Must say, though, for Leeward Islands, must also point out that Jeremiah Louis took 8 wickets across the match, so it wasn't all doom and gloom for the Leeward Islands. Jamar Hamilton, who is perennially ignored at international level for the West Indies, struck a 70 in the second innings for the Leeward Islands as well. I mean, I would assume Jamar Hamilton's days are numbered, but you never know. You never know. Jamar is 33. He's still only 33. If Keon Otley can get into a West Indies side at 34, why can't Jamar Hamilton get into a West Indies side at 33? But we shall see. I'm sure some of you will say, what about this person? What about that person? Please get in the comments below if there's anyone you want to mention. Looking at the Trinidad and Tobago game, some people will feel upset that this happened, but we have to raise it. Jason Mohammed led from the front, an even 100, not out for the Trinidad and Tobago Red Force. And it's worth highlighting this simply because there were plenty of people who said that Jason Mohammed should not be in a Trinidad and Tobago Red Force team going forward. They all want to point out the fact that Jason is 37 years old. Now, I get it. I get it. Everyone will say he's an old man now. He's taken up someone's spot in Trinidad. His spot should go to a young player. But then there's the flip side to this argument. Name another young player who's scoring big centuries that is better than Jason Mohammed. And yes, there is still an argument that, but Jason, you're 37. You're not going to get called up for the West Indies again. But Jason wants to eat a food, yes? Jason's attitude from the article I read before the Red Bull Championship was that I can still contribute to the Trinidad and Tobago Red Force. I'm still hungry to score runs, and I have a right to have a career. He's right in all those senses. Is there anyone in Trinidad and Tobago better than Jason Mohammed right now who's a youth man? If there is, tell me who it is. Because all I know is he struck 100. In that match, Vikash Mohan scored 20. Sifas Cooper made 8. Jahid Guli made 3. Amir Jangu made 27. Tion Webster, in fairness, hit a 50. If there's a better bat than Jason Mohammed, please get in the comments below and tell me who it is that should be replacing Jason Mohammed in that Trinidad team. I know that Jason and Ganga are feuding over things like this, about the fact that he's 37 and still in the team and so on and so forth. But somebody tell me a better player then that can replace Jason Mohammed. In the Jamaica match, let's go to Jamaica versus Windward Islands. The Scorpions, I think Santoki tweeted something which I can't find. I don't know if I can find the tweet right now. Let me see if I can find it. So I want to make sure I've got the exact information that Santoki tweeted. Here it is. Jamaica Scorpions have now gone 8 first-class matches without registering a win. The last time Jamaica Scorpions won a Red Bull game was May 2022. Awful. Awful. Someone's head has got to roll at the Jamaica Scorpions setup. Something's not right with that setup. How can you have a team? Let's just remind people. This is the Jamaica Scorpions top 6. Chadwick Walton, whether he should be there or not, the point is his experience. Carlos Brown, Kirk McKenzie, Nkrumah Bonner, Jermaine Blackwood, Abajai Mansingh. That's their top 6, right? Mansingh played well last year for CCC, right? Just look at that 3-4-5. All of them either current West Indian internationals or former West Indian internationals. McKenzie, Bonner, Blackwood. First innings, between the 3 of them, they made 25 runs. Second innings, between the 3 of them, they made 61 runs. It's not good enough. It's simply not good enough. You can't have 3 West Indian internationals in your middle order, top to middle order, and you're still making no runs. Something's rotten in that Scorpion setup. It was rotten in Super 50 last year. It was rotten in the first class championship last year, and it looks still rotten now. How can this team not know how to bat? How can they not? The T20 series against Australia is soon over. I can't remember if Brandon King's got a PSL deal or not. If he hasn't, then you would assume King comes back and will play a role in that Scorpion side as well. There is no reason why the Scorpions should be so bad. And to be continually bad means you have to start looking at the dressing room. You have to start asking questions about how this side is being coached. Several Scorpions players over the last year and a bit have come out and spoken in the press about them thinking the coaching. Andre McCarthy spoke up. Jamie Merchant spoke up. I'm just saying, maybe there's no smoke without fire. But that's not to take away from the Women's Islands Volcanoes. Obviously, Ryan John, again, started the competition strong, 5 for 43 in that first inning. Shamar Springer took 5 wickets across the match as well. With the bat, Johan Jeremiah carried on from the good form he showed in Super 50 for CCC. He scored 80. Shamar Springer scored 72 at number 7. Even Ryan John chipped in at number 8 with a 57. Women's Islands posting a very good 3 for 341 runs. And then again, Jamaica poor with the bat, only put up 2, 3, 4. I mean, good to see Bonner, I guess, in the runs in some regards. 45. It's not big runs, but it's some kind of runs, you know. Romain Morrison, in fairness, scored 2 50s. He scored a 35 in the first innings and a 68 in the second. So he was the one Jamaican batter to show some kind of form. And then obviously the Women's Islands only needed 53 to win, and they got there very, very easily, winning by 9 wickets. So again, good start for Women's Islands. Kimani Mellis, the new captain. Mellis had a bad time of it with the bat. I mean, let's see how Mellis goes. I think he's got a lot to prove still with the bat. He scored 31 and 4. Let's see how he goes in the next game. Women's Island Volcanoes will be playing the Barbados Pride. And then in the final match of the first round, it was Barbados Pride versus CCC. The standout there, of course, was Kevin Wickham, the West Indies Academy graduate, who Barbados Pride have put into their franchise side. And it's worth noting, the Barbados Pride have elevated Kevin Wickham to their side. Kevlin Anderson has been elevated to the Guyana side. This is what we want to see. We want to see players who shine for the West Indies Academy should be fast-tracked very quickly into their franchise setup. It's happened for Kevlon. It's happened now for Kevin Wickham, right? And Wickham struck 139. Jonathan Drake's also got 84. He struck 139, his third first-class century, scored 100 last year in the Headley Week series, scored 100 against Ireland emerging team, and now he scored 100 against CCC. Note of caution that Craig Brathwaite's stink form has continued. Some slight worrying signs there, but let's see how Craig gets on in the rest of the tournament. Craig only made, I think he made a 7 and a 1. Was it a 7 and a duck? A 7 and a duck for Craig Brathwaite. So he's in a bit of down bad form at the moment. With the ball, I think Chaim Holder was the standout. Yeah, Chaim Holder took 8 wickets in the match for Barbados, the off spinner. Jamel Warrican took 4 wickets in the first innings as well. 4 for 29. He did his usual kind of domestic stuff. And in fact, Jamel took 7 wickets in the match, whereas Chaim took 8. So the spinners did the most of the job there for Barbados Pride. Sorry, people. But the one thing that kind of stood out for me and the big question mark for me, in the first innings for CCC, they scored 185. Jonathan Carter top scored with 59, the Bayesian captain. Shaqiri Paris, former West Indies under-19 international, scored 44 at the top. Showed some good defence in general, 44 for 108 balls. In the second innings, Shamar Brooks top scored with 72 of 134. Again, experienced Bayesian, adding some experience to this CCC side. Now, listen very carefully to what I say here, people. What is the purpose of CCC? I need someone to explain the purpose of CCC. is it worth us having? I know they won Super 50 back in 2018, so people will immediately say to me, "Yeah, but Mash, they've been good in the past. Don't diss CCC." But this iteration of CCC is weak, right? So this was their team: Christian Kalicharan, Shaqiri Parish, Shamar Brooks, Shatugran Ramabran, Jonathan Carter, Demario Richards, Romario Graves, Sion Hackett, Zishan Matara, Jediah Blades, and Gustava Edmond. This is what I want people to answer for me. How many of those players in CCC are Bayesian? Let me ask that difficult question for people. How many of the CCC players are Bayesian? And this isn't an anti-Bayesian thing. That's not my point. My point is, what is the point of CCC? If CCC is supposed to be a UE students team where people who are studying also get to play professional cricket because they may or may not be talented professional cricketers as well, but they happen to just be studying, cool. But because it's based out of UE in Barbados, I just want to know something. Is there a advantage to being a Bayesian student then, because it's already based in Barbados, if that makes sense? And if there's an advantage for Bayesian students because of the location of the university campuses, and maybe I've got this wrong. If I'm reading this wrong, please correct me in the comments below. If you think I'm totally seeing this the wrong way, please get at me in the comments below and say, Mash, now you're out of order. You're not reading this properly. I just feel that the principle of having another team in the first class championship is correct. But should it be CCC? When I saw the squad for CCC this year, I said, yeah, they're going to get licked down by a lot of teams this year. It's not strong enough. Now, Cricket West Indies have a right to input 4 experienced players or any players of their choice into the CCC setup. As I understand it this year, they only used 2 spots, one for Jonathan Carter and one for Shamar Brooks to add some needed experience to that CCC side. But those 2 are Bayesian as well. So what's going on here? Last year it was Shane Dowrich, he Bayesian as well. I'm not coming for Bayesians. That's not my point. I'm just saying, what's the rationale here? If CCC isn't a multinational side and it's heavily skewed to one nation more than others, then what is this then? That Barbados Pride versus CCC game almost came in like Barbados Pride versus some Bayesian youth man with Shamar Brooks and Jonathan Carr. Come on, man. That's not competitive cricket. Don't call that competitive cricket. Don't try and sell to me. Don't try and sell to me that that's competitive. No, it's not. No, it's not. What's the point of CCC? Why don't we put another team in there that isn't CCC then? And I know we've got to give, like, there's plenty of youth men out there we've got to give opportunities to. So when some of these under-19 youth men come back from the World Cup, so Isaiah Thorne, for example, has been inserted into the Guyana side. So what happens then with Jewel Andrew, Jordan Johnson, Stefan Pascal, Steve Wedderburn, Renico Smith, Nathan Edward, Nathan Seeley? There's a bunch of under-19 man, right? So what now for them? How comes we don't put them into the CCC team? Like, I just... Get me in the comments below, people, because sorry, let me put my charger on. Some of you will say, nah, Mash, you're reading this all wrong. But what will be interesting for me is this. The next round of the 4-day championship, Jamaica Scorpions, sorry, just look at my fixtures. Jamaica Scorpions will play CCC. I think that game's at Sabina. That should be, on paper, the worst game of the whole competition. Let's see how down bad that game is. And that will be very, very instructive to me as to the quality of, one, the down bad Scorpions, but also the purpose of CCC in this competition. I'm sure that last little segment will get some certain people upset in West Indies cricket and say, nah, you're out of order for saying that. But I'm just struggling to understand the fundamental purpose behind the combined campus and colleges team, and if it's truly reflective of young Caribbean talent, or if it's skewered too heavily to one nation more than others, and if we could possibly be looking at the setup of the competition differently. Why CCC and not another Youth Man iteration is all I guess I'm asking. You could still have Ganga leading it, but why CCC? Anyways, people, next round of matches start on Wednesday. To reiterate again, you've got Jamaica Scorpions versus CCC. That'll be at Sabina. Barbados Pride versus Windward Island Volcanoes. I think that's at Kensington Cricket Club. Leeward Islands versus Harpy Eagles, which I think is going to be at Windsor Park. And then Trinidad and Tobago Red Force versus West Indies Academy at Connery, unless that pitch is still shit up from the cows then. I've been Mashal St. Patrick here on Half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast as ever. Follow the Caribbean Cricket Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the website, the official website. We're everywhere. Look at the ticker tape below. And of course, if you want to support the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, head to www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket. I'll be Mashal St. Patrick here on Half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rule seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.